I'm Brittany. I only just now realized that I don't actually have Merlin, so here's Shi Lian for the first half. And welcome to Gaywatch, where we watch and read gay things. It is my birthday today, and I actually put off my vacation for a week just so that I could have streams on my birthday. And let me tell you, it's a banger so far. It's going really well. I'm terribly excited. I am having so much fun right now. And which I can't remember what comes up in as we continue reading King's Rising today. But you know, even if it's just some more trying times as we experienced previously, I'm still gonna be having a blast. Is that strange? I actually don't think it is. I think I'm in the right room to say this. Before I forget, the break room that you just saw, the Gaywatch break room, that's actually my setup. So I have a separate thing set up for Gaywatch streams where obviously everything is as gay as possible because of course. But the room you're looking at now is actually the current room that I have on all the time. That is my current safe space. And it may actually be my favorite setup that I've ever made in that game program, whatever you want to call it. And I love it so much. And I thought it would be rather fitting for my birthday that you guys get to see the room that I just have up all the time. That's where I am all the time. It has been up for a while and I'm not tired of it yet. And I am particularly proud of it because it's gorgeous. So, and then there is a little axolotl guy who's new, who's sitting on those cushions and everything. You'll get a better look at him on the break when I choose a closer camera angle. But he's chosen for very appropriate reasons because he resembles a little birthday cake. He has a candle on his head. And you'll see that it's really cute. It's really absurdly cute. But he is chosen for birthday reasons. So that's my little break room that I shared with you guys for today. We will be back to the Gaywatch living room and the Gaywatch kitchen and everything when I come back from the weekend vacation. But for today, you know, it's just my nice little cozy safe space. Speaking of which, there will be no streams next week because I am on vacation. We will pick up right where we leave off the week after. So I have, in case you're new here, I take mandatory week-long vacations every 3 to 4 months. I try to keep it to 3. This might be month 5, but you didn't see anything. Just for neurodivergent burnout prevention reasons. And that's been keeping me going all these years so far. So that one of those breaks is now coming up, and so there will be no streams next week, but we will pick up the week after. We read for a couple of hours. We take a break somewhere around in the middle for a few minutes. That's where the break room comes from. And there are trigger warnings for this trilogy in the description box, should you need them. Please no spoilers in the chat, because we always have people who are new here and who do not know what is going to happen next, so please do not spoil them. I have read this series before, but I have an immaculate gift for forgetting things. So even though I remember a lot of the big things, forgotten a lot of the details. Although I've also forgotten some of the big things as well, because I don't remember like what happens to, I don't know, the villain of the trilogy. I have no idea. I can't remember. So we are starting on page 60, or chapter 5. Am I even remotely centered? Kind of, sort of. I'm more or less centered, sure. As we begin, the first impact of the alliance having fallen on Nicandros, the morning's announcement was less personal, but more difficult, and done on a grander scale. Heralds had been galloping back and forth between their camps since before dawn. The preparations for this announcement had been developed before the camp stirred in gray light. Meetings of this kind could take months to arrange. The speed at which it happened now was dizzying, if you did not know Laurent. Damon summoned Macedon to the command pavilion and called for his army to form up before him for an address. He sat on the audience throne, with a single oak seat empty beside him and Nicandros standing behind him. He watched the army wheel into place, 1,500 men in disciplined lines. Damon's view commanded the whole sweep of the fields, his army arrayed in a 2-block formation before him, with a clear path through their center that led right to the base of Damon's throne beneath its pavilion. It had been Damon's choice not to tell Macedon independently, but to gather him here for the address, as unaware of what was coming as the soldiers. It was a risk, and every aspect of it must be managed carefully. Macedon of the Notched Belt held the largest provincial army of the north, and though technically a bannerman under Nicandrus's command, he was a power in his own right. If he left in anger with his men, he would end Damon's chances at a campaign. Damon felt Macedon react when the Vician herald came galloping back into their camp. Macedon was dangerously volatile. He had disobeyed kings before. He had broken the peace treaty only weeks earlier, launching a personal counterattack on Vere. "His Highness Laurent, Prince of Vere and Aquitar," called the herald, and Damon felt the men in the tent around him react further. Nicandros kept his outward appearance unvarying, even if Damon could feel the tension in him. Damon's own heartbeat sped up, though he kept his face impersonal. When prince met prince, there were protocols to observe. You did not greet each other alone in a diaphanous tent, or thrown to the ground in chains in a palace viewing chamber. The last time Achiellan and Vician royalty had met ceremonially had been 6 years ago, at Marus, when the regent had surrendered to Damon's father, King Theomedes. Out of respect to the Vicians, Damon had not been present, but he remembered the satisfaction of knowing that Vician royalty was bending its knee to his father. He had liked it. He had probably liked it, he thought, about as much as his men disliked what was happening today, and for the same reasons. The Vician banners were visible, streaming across the field, 6 abreast and 36 in length, with Laurent riding at their head. Damon waited, sitting powerfully on the oak throne, his arms and thighs bare in the Achiellan style, his army stretching out before him in immaculate, unmoving lines. It was not like the ecstatic entries Laurent had made into the towns and villages of Vere. No one swooned or cheered or threw flowers at his feet. The camp was silent. The Achiellan soldiers watched him ride through the center of their ranks towards the pavilion, marked out in sunlight, their own armor and sharpened blades and points of spears glinting, polished after having been so recently used to kill. But the pure, insolent grace was the same, his bright head uncovered. He was not wearing armor or any symbol of rank save for the gold circlet on his forehead. But when he swung down off his horse and tossed the reins to a servant, no pair of eyes looked anywhere else. Damon stood up. The whole tent reacted, the men standing, shifting, lowering their eyes for the king. Laurent strolled in, beautifully. He seemed sublimely unaware of the reaction that his presence was causing. He came down the path that was cleared for him, as though walking unmolested through the Achiellan camp was simply his right. Damon's own men watched as a man might watch his enemy sauntering into his house, unable to prevent it. "My brother of Achiellos," said Laurent. Damon met his eyes without flinching. Everyone knew that in the Achiellan language, princes of foreign nations addressed each other in the fraternal. "Our brother of Vere," said Damon. He was half aware of Laurent's entourage, liveried servants and some unidentified men outside, and several courtiers from Fortaine in attendance. He recognized Laurent's captain, Enguerrand. He recognized Guillaume, the regent's most loyal counselor, who, sometime in the last 3 days, had switched sides. Damon lifted his hand, offering it palm up, with fingers outstretched. Laurent lifted his own hand calmly, resting it atop Damon's. Their fingers met. He could feel the eyes of every Achiellan in the tent on him. They proceeded slowly. Laurent's fingers rested infinitesimally above his own. He felt the moment when the men around him realized what was going to happen. Reaching the dais, they sat, facing forward, the twin oak seats, now twin thrones. Shock. It traveled like a wave over the men and women in the tent, out over the gathered ranks of soldiers. Everyone could see where Laurent and Damon sat, side by side. He knew what it meant. This was the status of a compeer. It announced equality. "We have called you here today to witness our accord," said Damon, in a clear voice that carried over the noise. "Today we mark the alliance of our nations against those pretenders and usurpers who seek to assail our thrones." Laurent settled in as though the place had been made for him, and adopted the posture he typically favored, one leg straight out before him, a fine-boned wrist balanced on the arm of the throne. Explosions of outrage, furious exclamations. There were hands on the hilts of swords. Laurent did not look particularly concerned by this, or anything. "In Ver, it is customary to bestow a gift on a favored companion," said Laurent in Achielan. "Ver, therefore, offers this gift to Achielos, as a symbol of our alliance, now and in all the days to come." His fingers lifted. A Vician servant came forward, a cushion resting like a platter on his outstretched forearms. Damon felt the tent fade away before his eyes. He forgot the men and women watching. He forgot the need to keep his army and his generals from revolt. He only saw what lay on the cushion that the servant bore towards the dais. Coiled and personal, Laurent's gift was a Vician whip made of gold. Damon recognized it. It had a carved golden handle with a ruby or garnet inset distinctively into its base, held in the jaws of a great cat. He remembered the handler's rod with the same carvings, with its long filigree chain that had affixed to the collar around his neck. The great cat resembled the lion symbol of his own house. He remembered Laurent's hand giving a little tug on the rod, infuriating, more than that. He remembered having his legs kicked apart, his hands bound, the thick wood of the post against his chest, the lash about to fall on his back. He remembered Laurent, arranging himself against the opposite wall, settling his shoulders there, positioning himself to watch every slightest expression on Damon's face. His gaze swung to Laurent. He knew he had flushed. He could feel the heat in his own cheeks. In front of the gathered generals, he couldn't say, "What have you done?" Outside the tent, something started happening. I forgot about that. I kind of remembered this scene at the dais-ish, sorta. Didn't remember the gift. The gift. I mean, it's not that Laurent goes below the belt, it's that he starts below the belt. And when he gets nasty, he goes into the floor. That's also really interesting from like a character perspective, though, because it is sort of like, it's like a symbolic regression in their relationship. He's like, after all the way, we've come this far, but I'm setting us back to, this is where I am when it comes to you. That's the message that's being sent here. All of this may have happened, but I'm still the guy who had you whipped. And that's where my head is. Shit. Vician attendants were placing a series of 10 ornamental whipping blocks at even intervals outside the pavilion. 10 men were pulled like sacks of grain from their horses by Vician handlers, stripped, then bound. Inside the tent, Achielan men and women were looking at one another questioningly, others craning their necks to see. In front of the gathered army, the 10 captives were shoved towards the blocks, stumbling a little, their balance precarious, their hands tied behind their backs. "These are the men who attacked the Achielan village of Terrassus," said Laurent. "They are clan mercenaries paid for by my uncle, who killed your people in an attempt to wreck the peace between our nations." He had the attention of the tent now. The eyes of every Achielan were on him, from the soldiers to the officers, even the generals. Macedon and his soldiers, in particular, had seen the destruction at Terrassus firsthand. "The whip and the men are Ver's gift to Achelous," said Laurent, and then he turned his melting blue eyes on Damon. "The first 50 lashes are my gift to you." He couldn't have stopped it, even if he had wanted to. The atmosphere in the pavilion was thick with satisfaction and approval. His men wanted it, appreciated Laurent for it, the golden youth who could order men torn apart, and watch it, unflinching. The Vician handlers were hammering the whipping blocks into the earth and then jerking at them to test that they would hold weight. A part of Damon's mind recognized how perfectly this gift had been judged, the exquisite virtuosity of it. Laurent was delivering him a backhanded blow with one hand, and with the other, caressing his generals as a man scratches a dog under the chin. Damon heard himself say, "Ver is generous." After all, Laurent held his gaze. "I remember what you like." The stripped men were tied down. The Vician handlers took up position, each standing by one of the bound prisoners, each holding a whip. The call went out. Damon felt his pulse speed up as he realized he was going to watch Laurent have 10 men flayed alive in front of him. "Furthermore," said Laurent, his voice pitched to carry, "Fortaine's bounty is yours. Its physicians will tend to your wounded. Its storehouses will feed your men. The Achelan victory at Charcy was hard won. All that Ver gained while you fought is yours, and it is deserved. I will not profit from any hardship that befalls the rightful king of Achelous or his people." "You will lose Stratton. You will lose Macedon," Nicandros had said. But he hadn't counted on the fact that Laurent would arrive and begin, dangerously, to control everything. It took a long time. 50 lashes, brought with effort of shoulder and arm down onto a man's unprotected back, was a protracted undertaking. Damon made himself watch it all. He didn't look at Laurent. Laurent, he knew intimately, could level that endless blue gaze forever while watching a man flayed. He remembered in exact detail what it felt like to be whipped with Laurent's eyes on him. Bloody and pulped, the men, who were no longer men, were cut from the whipping blocks. That took time, too, because more than one handler was needed to lift each man, and no one was quite certain which of the men were unconscious and which were dead. Damon said, "We have a personal gift, too." The eyes of those in the tent turned to him. Wait, am I remembering that correctly? Wait, did I just... Hang on. I may not be remembering correctly. So let me get there. The eyes of those in the tent turned to him. Laurent's gift had forestalled any open revolt, but there was still a rift between Achelous and Ver. Last night, in the evening darkness of the tent, he had pulled this gift from his packs and looked down at it, feeling its weight in his hands. Once or twice before, he had thought about this moment. In his most private thoughts, he'd imagined it happening with the two of them alone together. He hadn't imagined it like this, the private made public and painful. He didn't have Laurent's ability to hurt with what mattered most. It was his turn to cement the alliance between their nations, and there was only one way to do that. "Every man here knows that you kept us as a slave," said Damon. He said it loudly enough that all those gathered in the pavilion tent could hear. "We wear your cuff on our wrist. But today the Prince of Ver will prove himself our equal." He gestured, and one of his squires came forward. It was still wrapped in cloth. He felt the sudden tension in Laurent, though there was no outward change. Damon said, "You asked for it, once." The squire drew back the cloth to reveal a gold cuff. I did remember correctly. In the weirdest way, this proves how perfect they are for each other. Whew. Like, find someone to match your freak. Oh my god. Oh my god. He felt, rather than saw, the tightness in Laurent. The cuff, unmistakably, was the twin to the one Damon wore, altered last night by a blacksmith for Laurent's finer wrist. Damon said, Damon said, wear it for me. For a moment, he thought Laurent wasn't going to do it. But in public, Laurent had no recourse to refusal. Laurent extended his hand and then waited, palm outstretched, his eyes lifting to meet Damon's. Laurent said, "Put it on me." I realize their love is going to try to save kingdoms here, but also they're also making their love everyone else's problem. And like, oh my god. Holy shit. Are we holding hands? We should probably be holding hands. I didn't think we were going to hold hands at this part, but here we are. Woo! Every pair of eyes in the tent was on him. Damon took Laurent's wrist in his hand. He would have to unlace the fabric and push the sleeve back. He could feel the devouring gazes of the Achielans in the tent, as hungry for this as they had been for the whipping. Rumors of Damon's enslavement in Vere had spread like fire through the camp. To see the Vician prince wear the gold cuff of a palace bedslave in turn was shocking, intimate, a symbol of Damon's ownership. Damon felt the hard, curved edge of the cuff when he lifted it. Laurent's blue eyes remained cool, but under Damon's thumb, Laurent's pulse was rabbit fast. "My throne for your throne," Damon said. He pushed back the fabric. It was more bare-skinned than Laurent had ever shown in public, on display to the entire tent. "Help me regain my kingdom, and I'll see you king of Vere." Damon fitted the cuff to Laurent's left wrist. "I'm overjoyed to wear a gift that reminds me of you," said Laurent. The cuff locked into place. He didn't withdraw his wrist, just left it leaned on the arm of the throne, laces open, and gold cuff in full view. What in the wedding ceremony is this? Horns were blown the length of the ranks, and refreshments were brought. All that had to happen now was for Damon to endure the rest of the welcoming ceremony, and at the end, sign their treaty. A series of display fights were performed, marking the occasion with disciplined choreography. Laurent watched with polite attention, and underneath that, possibly real attention, as it would suit him to catalog Achielan fighting techniques. Damon could see Macedon watching them with an impassive face. Across from Macedon, Vans was taking refreshments. Van had been the regent's ambassador to the all-female court of the Vaskian Empress, who it was said ripped men apart with her leopards for public sport. He thought of the delicate dealings with the Vaskian clans that Laurent had engineered all along their ride south. He said, "Are you going to tell me what won Van to your side?" Laurent said, "It's no secret. She is to be the first member of my council." "And Guillaume?" "I threatened his sons. He took it seriously. I had already killed one of them." Macedon was approaching the thrones. There was an air of expectancy as Macedon came forward, the men in the tent shifting to see what he would do. Macedon's hatred of Vicians was well known. Even if Laurent had forestalled open rebellion, Macedon would not accept the leadership of a Vician prince. Macedon bowed to Damon, then stood without showing any respect to Laurent. He looked out briefly at the Achillean choreographed fights, then his eyes traveled over Laurent, slowly and arrogantly. "If this is truly an alliance between equals," said Macedon, "it's a pity we can't see a display of Vician fighting." "You are seeing one right now and you don't even know it," thought Damon. The boy learns. Laurent kept his attention on Macedon. "Or a contest," Macedon said. "Vician against Achillean." "Are you proposing to challenge Lady Van to a duel?" said Laurent. Blue eyes met brown. Laurent was relaxed on the throne, and Damon was too aware of what Macedon saw. A youth, less than half his age, a princeling who shirked battle, a courtier with lazy indoor elegance. "Our king has a reputation on the field," said Macedon, his eyes passing over Laurent slowly. "Why not a demonstration fight between you both?" "But we are like brothers," Laurent smiled. Damon felt Laurent's fingertips touch his. Their fingers slid into one another. He knew from long experience when Laurent was repressing everything into a single hard kernel of distaste. Heralds brought the document, ink on paper, written in two languages, side by side so that neither one was atop the other. It was simply worded. It did not contain endless clauses and subclauses. It was a brief declaration. Ver and Achilleos, united against their usurpers, allied in friendship and common cause. He signed it. Laurent signed it. Damianos V and Laurent R, with a big loopy L. "To our wondrous union," said Laurent. And then it was done, and Laurent was rising, and the Vicians were departing, a blue stream of banners riding out in a long, receding procession across the field. It's a scene break. Whew! Whew! Oh, wow. Damn. Before we continue, I did forget to say at the top of the stream that because it is my birthday, the wife will actually be crashing this stream there at the end. After she gets home and after we're done reading. She's going to come crash the stream because apparently, I think, a couple of you may have sent me things. And she has them for me to open. So I believe I am opening some birthday gifts at the end of this stream. So that is a thing that is happening. I should have mentioned this at the top, but I didn't. I'm too excited about everything in general. So, commercial break over. And the Achilleans were filing out too. The officers and the generals, the dismissed slaves, until he was alone with Nicandros, whose eyes were on him, furious, and with all the flat knowledge of an old friend. "You gave him Delpha," said Nicandros. "It wasn't a betting gift," said Nicandros. "You go too far." "Do I? I remember Ionestra and Ionora," said Nicandros. "And Euenides' daughter, and Kyra, the girl from the village. That's enough. I won't talk about this." He had turned his eyes away, fixing on the goblet in front of him, which, after a moment, he lifted. He took his first mouthful of wine. It was a mistake. "You don't need to talk. I have seen him," said Nicandros. And Damon getting called out for his blonde hair, blue-eyed type. I mean, as he should be. He should be called out a little bit for that. I mean, I understand. I love a good blonde head and blue eyes as well. Like, no, you can't. But he should be called out a little bit. Maybe by someone a little bit nicer who's a little less furious at him, but still. I don't care what you've seen. It's not what you think. I think he is beautiful and unobtainable when your whole life you've never had a refusal, said Nicandros. Oh! You have committed Achielos to an alliance because the Prince of Ver has blue eyes and blonde hair. And then, in a terrible voice, how many times does Achielos have to suffer because you can't keep your... I said that's enough, Nicandros. Damon was angry. He wanted to smash the glass beneath his fingers, to let the pain of the glass cut into him. Do you think, for a moment, that I'd... Nothing, he said, is more important to me than Achielos. He is the Prince of Ver. He doesn't care about Achielos. Are you saying you aren't swayed by the thought of having him? Open your eyes, Damianos. Damon pushed himself up from the throne and moved to the wide-open mouth of the pavilion. He had an unimpeded view across the fields to the Vician camp. Laurent and his retinue had disappeared inside of it, though the elegant encampment of Vician tents still faced him, with every silk pennant waving. You want him. It's natural. He looks like one of the statues Nereus has in his garden, and he's a prince of your own rank. He dislikes you, but dislike can have its own appeal. Said Nicandros. Now Nicandros is kind of just reading us all to filth. Like, let's be so real. So bet him. Satisfy your curiosity. Then when you have seen that mounting one blonde is much like mounting another, move on. The silence went on a moment too long. Oh, Damon. He felt Nicandros' reaction behind him. He kept his eyes on the goblet. He had no intention of putting any of it in words. I told him I was a slave, and he pretended to believe me. I kissed him on the battlements. He had his servants bring me to his bed. It was our last night together, and he gave himself to me. He knew all the while it happened that I was the man who killed his brother. When he turned, Nicandros' expression was awful. So it really was a betting gift. Yes, I lay with him, said Damon. It was one night. He barely relaxed the whole time. I will admit I wanted him, but he is the Prince of Ver, and I am the King of Achielos. This is a political alliance. He approaches it without emotion. So do I. He lied like a liar, but he's a better liar than he used to be. Nicandros said, do you think it relieves my mind to hear that he is beautiful and clever and cold? Yeah. He felt all the breath leave him. Since Nicandros had arrived, they had not talked about the summer night in Eos when Nicandros had given him a different warning. It's not the same. Laurent is not Jocasta? He said, I am not the man who trusted her. Then you're not Damianos. Like, you're right, he said. Damianos died in Achielos when he would not heed your warnings. He remembered Nicandros' words. Castor has always believed that he deserved the throne, that you took it from him. And his own reply, he wouldn't hurt me. We are family. Then heed them now, said Nicandros. I do. I know, said Damon, who he is, and that it means I cannot have him. No. Listen, Damianos. You trust blindly. You see the world in absolutes. If you believe someone a foe, nothing will dissuade you from arming up to fight. But when you give your affections, when you give a man your loyalty, your faith in him is unswerving. You would fight for him with your last breath. You would hear no word spoken against him, and you would go to the grave with his spear in your side. And you are so different, said Damon. I know what it means that you are riding with me. I know that if I am wrong, you will lose everything. Nicandros held his gaze, then let out a breath and passed his hand over his face, massaging it briefly. He said, "The Prince of Vare." When he looked at Damon again, it was a sidelong glance under his raised brows, and for a moment they were boys again, on the sawdust, throwing spears that fell 6 feet short of the men's hide targets. "Can you imagine," said Nicandros, "what your father would say if he knew?" "Yes," said Damon. "Which girl from the village was called Kyra?" "They all were. Damianos. You can't trust him." "I know that." He finished the wine. Outside, there were hours of daylight left, and work to be done. "You've spent a morning with him and you're warning me off. Just wait," said Damon, "until you've spent a full day with him." "You mean that he improves with time?" "Not exactly," said Damon. It's hilarious how that's both true and false. Laurent starts bad, and then as you spend more time with him, like say a day, he gets worse. But then if you actually get to know him, he gets understandable and then better? Laurent's complicated. That was the end of the chapter. We're on page 77 for chapter 6. The difficulty was that they could not ride out straight away. Damon ought to have been used to working with a divided troop, having had, by now, a great deal of practice. But this was not a small band of mercenaries. This was 2 powerful forces that were traditional enemies, headed by volatile generals on both sides. Macedon rode into Fortaine for their first official meeting with his mouth turned down. In the audience room, Damon found himself waiting, tense, for Laurent's arrival. Damon watched Laurent enter with his first advisor Van and his captain Enguerrand. He was frankly uncertain whether it was going to be a morning of invisible needling or a series of unbelievable remarks that left everyone's jaw on the floor. In fact, it was impersonal and professional. Laurent was exacting, focused, and spoke entirely in Achillean. Van and Enguerrand had less of the language, and Laurent took the lead in discussion, using Achillean words like, I can never remember if this is phalanx or phalanx. I think phalanx. It's that problem when neither one sounds right to you. As though he had not learned them from Damon only 2 weeks earlier, and giving the calm overall impression of fluency. The little brow furrows as he searched for vocabulary. The how do you say and what is it called when were gone. "It's lucky for him he speaks our language so well," said Nicandros as they returned to the Achillean camp. "Nothing involving him has anything to do with luck," said Damon. When he was alone, he looked out of his tent. The spreading fields looked peaceful, but soon the armies would move. The red outline of the horizon would grow nearer, the rising ground that contained all that he had ever known. He tracked it with his eyes, and when he was done, he turned from the view. He did not look at the burgeoning new Vician encampment, where colored silks lifted on the breeze, and the occasional sound of laughter or lilting carried across the springy grass of the field. Their camps, they agreed, would be kept separate. Achilleans, seeing the Vician tents begin to spring up in the fields with their pennants and silks and multicolored panels, were scornful. They did not want to fight alongside these new silky allies. In that respect, Laurent's absence at Charcy had been a disaster. His first true tactical misstep, from which they were still trying to recover. The Vicians were scornful too, in a different way. Achilleans were barbarians who kept company with bastards and walked around half naked. He heard the snatches of what was said on the edges of their camp, the ribald calls, the jeers and taunts. When Pallas walked past, Lazar wolf whistled. And that was before the more specific rumors, the murmurings among the men, the sidelong speculation that had Nicandros in the warm summer evening saying, "Take a slave." Damon said, "No." He buried himself in work and in physical exercise. During the day, he threw himself into the logistics and planning, the tactical groundwork that would facilitate a campaign. He plotted routes, he set up supply lines, he commanded drills, At night he went alone from the camp, and when there was no one around him, he took out his sword and practiced until he was dripping with sweat, until he could no longer raise his sword but only stand, his muscles trembling, the tip of his blade pointed to the ground. He went to bed alone. He undressed and sluiced himself down, and only used squires to perform those menial tasks without intimacy. He told himself that this was what he had wanted. There was a working relationship between himself and Laurent. There was no longer friendship, but that had never been possible. He had known it would not be some stupid fantasy of showing Laurent his country, of Laurent leaning against the marble balcony at Eos, turning to greet him in the cool air overlooking the sea, his eyes bright with the splendor of the view. So he worked. There were tasks to do. He sent out a stream of correspondence to the Kaibroi of his homeland to announce his return. Soon he would know the initial extent of his support in his own country, and he could begin to settle the routes and advances that would secure him a victory. He came to his tent after 3 hours of solitary weapons practice, his body damp with sweat that would be wiped down by body squires, since he had dismissed all his slaves. He sat down to write letters instead. The candles flickered low around him, but it was enough light for what must be done. He wrote by his own hand the personal missives to those he knew. He didn't tell any of them the details of what had happened to him. Across the evening fields, Jord, Lazar, and the other members of the Prince's Guard were somewhere in the Vician encampment, working under the new regimen. He thought about Jord, staying in the fort that had been Amaric's home. He remembered Jord saying, "You ever wonder what it would feel like to find out you'd spread for your brother's killer? I think it would feel like this." The silence was one of hollow hours, filling up all the space in his tent, alone with the muted nighttime activity of an army, when he found his final letter done. To Castor, he sent only a single message. "I come." He didn't watch the messenger depart. It's not naive to trust your family. He had said that once. We just gotta breathe through King's Rising. That's a scene break. Guyon was in a room that looked a lot like the room where Amaric had bled out, though Guyon had little physical resemblance to his son. There was no sign of the polished curls or the obstinate, long-lashed gaze. Guyon was a man in his late 40s, with an indoor figure. When he saw Damon, Guyon bowed in the same way that he would have bowed to the regent, deeply, sincerely. "Your Majesty," said Guyon. "And just like that, you've changed sides." Damon looked at him with distaste. Guyon was not, as far as Damon could discern, under any kind of arrest. He had free reign of the fort, and was still, in many respects, the fort's figurehead, even if Laurent's men now held power. Whatever bargain Guyon had struck with Laurent, he had received a great deal in exchange for his cooperation. "I have a lot of sons," said Guyon, "but the supply isn't infinite." Oh. If Guyon wanted to run, Damon supposed his options were limited. The regent wasn't a forgiving man. Guyon had little choice but to receive Achielans into his chambers with geniality. What was galling was the ease with which he seemed to have adjusted to this change, the luxury of his apartments, the lack of all consequence for anything that he had done. He thought of the men who had died at Charcy, and then he thought of Laurent, surrendering his weight to the table in the tent, his hand clasped to his shoulder, his face white with the last real expression he had shown. Damon had come here to learn what he could of the regent's plans, but there was only one question rising to his lips. "Who hurt Laurent at Charcy? Was it you?" "He didn't tell you." Damon had not spoken alone to Laurent since that night in the tent. "He doesn't betray his friends." "It's not a secret. I captured him on his way to Charcy. He was brought to Fortaine, where he negotiated with me for his release. By the time he and I came to our arrangement, he had spent some time as a prisoner in the cells and had suffered a little accident to the shoulder. A true casualty was what? The true casualty was Gavar. The prince dealt him a tremendous blow to the head. He died a day later, cursing physicians and bedboys." Is that true? I would kind of love for Govar to have just a casual off-screen death. I would love for that to be true, especially since it was basically at the hands of Laurent, even if it wasn't immediate. I would love this to be true. Oh my god. I can't even remember if that feels true or not. So like I really can't say either way. But I hope that's true. You put Govar, said Damon, in a cell with Laurent. Yes, Guillaume spread his hands, just as I hoped to bring about the coup in your country. Now, of course, you need my testimony to win back your throne. That is politics. The prince understands that. It is why he has allied with you. Guillaume smiled. Your Majesty. Damon made himself speak very calmly, having come here to learn from Guillaume that what he could not learn from his own men. Did the regent know who I was? If he did, having you sent to Vere was rather a miscalculation on his part, wasn't it? Yes, said Damon. He didn't lift his eyes from Guillaume. He watched the blood rise and mottle Guillaume's cheeks. If the regent knew who you were, said Guillaume, then he hoped that when you arrived in Vere, the prince would recognize you and be provoked into a blunder. Either that, or he wanted the prince to take you into his bed. The realization of what he'd done then would kill him. How lucky for you that didn't happen, Guillaume said. He looked at Guillaume, sick, suddenly, of double speak and double dealing. You swore a sacred duty to hold the throne in trust for your prince. Instead, you turned on him for power, for personal gain. What has that won you? For the first time, he saw something genuine flicker in Guillaume's expression. He killed my son, said Guillaume. You killed your son, said Damon, when you threw him into the path of the regent. Sassy Damon is back! Woo! Oh! Oh no! Oh! Shit! Oh! That was beautiful. That was beautiful. That was satisfying. That was gorgeous. That was wonderful. That was also a scene break. Damon's experience with a divided troop meant he already knew what to look for. Food going astray, weapons destined for one or other faction rerouted, essentials for daily tasks within the camp missing. He had dealt with it all on the ride from Arles to Ravenel. He had not dealt with Macedon. Round 1 came when Macedon refused to accept the extra rations available to his troops from Fortaine. Achielans didn't need pampering. If Vicians wished to indulge in all this extra food, they could do so. Before Damon could open his mouth to respond, Laurent announced that he would likewise change the provisions among his own troops so that there would not be a disparity. In fact, everyone from soldiers to captains to kings across both troops would receive the same portion, and that portion would be determined by Macedon. Would Macedon inform them now what that portion was to be? Round 2 was the skirmish that broke out in the Achielan encampment. An Achielan with a bleeding nose, a Vician with a broken arm, and Macedon smiling and saying that it had been no more than a friendly competition. Only a coward feared competition. He said it to Laurent. Laurent said that from this moment on, any Vician who struck an Achielan would be executed. He trusted the honor of the Achielans, he said. Only a coward hit a man who wasn't allowed to hit back. I'm sorry, I'm having a real, sapiosexual moment here. It's the competence and the cleverness. You know? You're here, so I assume you know. But you know? Whew. It was like watching a boar try to take on the endless blue of the sky. Okay, first of all, goddamn, we know you can write prose, C.S. Picot. We know, all right? But that comparison? Be serious. I'm so furious at you. Damon remembered how it felt to be coerced to Laurent's will. Laurent had never needed to use force to make men obey him, just as he had never needed men to like him in order to get his way. Laurent got his way because when men tried to resist him, they found, sweetly outmaneuvered, that they couldn't. And indeed, it was only the Achielans who murmured in dissent. Laurent's men had swallowed the alliance. In fact, the way Laurent's men talked about their prince now was not substantially different to the way they had talked about him before. Cold. Ice cold. Except now he was cold enough to have fucked his brother's killer. The pledge should be made in the traditional manner, said Nicandros. A night feast for the bannermen and the ceremonial sports, the display fighting, and the octon. We gather at Marus. Nicandros stuck another token into the sand tray. A strong location, Macedon was saying. The fort itself is all but impregnable. Its walls have never been breached, only surrendered. No one was looking at Laurent. It wouldn't have mattered if they had been. His face showed nothing. Marus is a large-scale defensive fort not dissimilar to Fortain, Nicandros said to Laurent later. Big enough to house both our men and yours, with substantial interior barracks. You'll see its potential when we get there. I've been there before, said Laurent. Then you're familiar with the area, said Nicandros. That makes it easier. Yes, said Laurent. After, Damon took his sword out to the edges of the camp to practice, finding the clearing that he preferred in a thicket of trees and beginning the series of exercises that he performed every night. Here there were no barriers to his skill. He could drive himself hard, strike, turn, force himself faster. In the warm night, his skin quickly pricked with sweat. He pushed himself harder to the ceaseless movements, action and reaction that anchored everything to the flesh. He poured all he felt into the physical, the emulation of fighting. He couldn't shake it off. He felt it like an unceasing pressure. The closer they came to it, the stronger it grew. Would they stay at Marus, in adjoining apartments, receiving Achielan bannermen during the evening from Twin Thrones? He didn't know what he wanted. For Laurent to have looked at him when Nicandros had announced that they would travel to the place where, 6 years ago, Damon had killed his brother. He heard a sound to the west. Panting, he stopped. Sweat-covered, he heard it again, the slight smothered laughter, and then the whistle and thunk, the jeers, a low moan. Instantly he recognized the danger. A spear thrown. Yet the laughter was too incautious, too loud for an enemy scout. Not an attack. A small party breaking army discipline, who had snuck out at night to hunt or tryst in the woods. He had thought his troops more disciplined than that. He went to investigate, quietly, watchfully, past a series of dark tree trunks. A rueful flicker of guilt. He knew that these men breaking curfew would not expect their king to appear and admonish them personally. His presence was ludicrously disproportionate to their crime, he thought. Until he reached the clearing. A group of 5 Achielan soldiers had indeed left the camp to practice spear throwing. They had brought a bundle of spears and a wooden target from the camp. The spears lay on the ground in easy reach. The target was set against the trunk of a tree. They were taking turns throwing from a mark towed into the earth. One of them was taking his place at the mark and hefting a spear. Pale, rigid with fear beyond terror, there was a boy spread-eagled on the wooden target board, tied at the wrists and ankles. From his torn, half-unlaced shirt, the boy was clearly a Vician, and young, 18 or 19. His light brown hair a matted tangle, his skin mottled with a bruise that covered one eye. A few spears had already been thrown at him. They stuck from the target like pins. One protruded from the space between his arm and side, one to the left of his head. The boy's eyes were glassy, and he held himself motionless. It was clear from the number of spears and their position that the aim of this contest was to throw as close to the boy as possible, without hitting him. The thrower drew back his arm. Damon could only stand and watch as the thrower's arm whirled, the spear loosing and beginning its clear, pure arc, unable to intervene in case it caused a misthrow that killed the boy. The spear sheared through the air and hit exactly where it had been intended, between the boy's legs, just shy of his flesh. It stuck out from the target, grotesquely lewd. The laughter was ribald. "And who will throw next?" said Damon. The thrower of the spear turned, his taunting expression changing to one of shock and disbelief. All 5 of them stopped and flattened themselves to the ground. "Stand," said Damon, "like the men you think you are." He was angry. The men standing perhaps did not recognize that. They didn't know the slow way that he came forward, or the calm tone of his voice. "Tell me," he said, "what it is you are doing here." "Practicing for the Octon," said a voice, and Damon looked them over but couldn't see who had spoken. Whoever it was had paled after he said it because they were all pale and nervous-looking. They wore the notched belts that marked them as Macedon's men, 1 notch for each kill. They might even have expected to get approbation from Macedon for what they had done. There was an uneasy expectancy in their postures, as though they were uncertain of their king's reaction and had some hope they might be praised or let off with no admonishment. He said, "Do not speak again." He went to the boy. The boy's shirt sleeve was pinned to the tree by a spear. His head was bleeding where a second spear had grazed it. Damon saw the boy's eyes darken in terror as he approached, and anger was like acid in his veins. He wrapped his hand around the spear between the boy's legs and pulled it out. Then he pulled out the spear by his head and the one pinning his shirt sleeve. He had to draw his sword to cut the boy's ropes, and at the sound of metal the boy's breathing went high and strange. The boy was badly bruised, and he could not stand under his own weight once the ropes were cut. Damon lowered him to the ground. More had been done to him than target practice. More had been done to him than a beating. They had put an iron cuff around his left wrist like the gold cuff around his own, like the gold cuff around Laurent's. Damon knew with a sickening feeling in his stomach exactly what had been done to this boy, and why. The boy didn't speak Achiellan. He had no idea what was happening, or that he was safe. Damon began to speak to him in Vician, slow, calming words, and after a moment the boy's glazed eyes focused on him with something like understanding. The boy said, "Tell the prince I didn't fight back." Damon turned and said in a steady voice to one of the men, "Bring Macedon, now." The man went. The other 4 stood in place while Damon went to one knee and addressed the boy on the ground again. In a soft, low voice, Damon kept him talking. The other men didn't watch because they were too low-ranked to be allowed to look a king in the face. Their eyes were averted. Macedon did not come alone. 24 of his men came with him. Then came Nicandros with 24 men of his own. Then a stream of torchbearers, turning the dim clearing into orange light and leaping flame. The grim expression Nicandros wore showed that he was here because Macedon and his men might need a counterweight. Damon said, "Your soldiers have broken the peace. They will be executed." Macedon said it after a cursory glance at the bleeding Vician boy. "They have dishonored the belt." That was genuine. Macedon didn't like Vicians. He didn't like his men dishonoring themselves in front of Vicians. Macedon wanted no whiff of Vician moral superiority. Damon could see that in him, and he could see that Macedon blamed the Vicians for the attack, for the behavior of his men, for being called to account by his king. The orange torchlight was unsparing. 2 of the 5 men struggled and were taken from the clearing unconscious. The others were roped together with pieces of the tough fibrous rope that had bound the Vician boy. "Take the boy back to our camp," Damon said to Nicandros, because he knew exactly what would happen if Achillean soldiers bore the bleeding, bruised boy back to the Vicians. "Send for Pascal, the Vician physician. Then inform the Prince of Vere what has happened here." A sharp nod of obedience. Nicandros departed with the boy and a section of the torches. Damon said, "The rest of you are dismissed. Not you." The light receded, and the sound disappearing through the trees until he was alone with Macedon in the night air of the clearing. "Macedon of the North," said Damon. "You were a friend to my father. You fought with him for almost 20 years. That means a great deal to me. I respect your loyalty to him, as I respect your power and need your men. But if your soldiers harm a Vician again, you will face me at the end of a sword." "Exalted," said Macedon, bowing his head to hide his eyes. "You walk a fine line with Macedon," Nicandros said on his return to camp. "He walks a fine line with me," said Damon. "He is a traditionalist and supports you as the true king, but he will only be pushed so far. I'm not the one pushing." He didn't retire. He took himself instead to the tent in his camp, where the Vician boy was being tended. He dismissed the guards there too, and waited outside for the physician to come out. At night the camp was quiet and dark, but this tent was marked by a torch flaming outside, and he could see the lights from the Vician camp to the west. He was aware of the oddness of his own presence, a king waiting outside a tent like a hound for its master, but he stepped forward quickly when Pascal emerged from the tent. "Your Majesty," said Pascal, surprised. "How is he?" He said it into the odd silence, facing Pascal in the light from the torches. "Bruising, a broken rib," said Pascal, shock. "No, I meant—" He broke off. After a long moment, Pascal said, slowly, "He is well. The knife wound was clean. He lost a lot of blood, but there is no permanent damage. He has healed quickly." "Thank you," said Damon. He heard himself continue. "I don't expect—" He stopped. "I know that I betrayed your trust and lied to you about who I am. I don't expect you to forgive me for that." He could feel the incongruity of the words, falling awkwardly between them. He felt strange, his breathing shallow. He said, "Will he be able to ride tomorrow?" "You mean to Marus?" said Pascal. There was a pause. "We all do what we have to," said Pascal. Damon said nothing. Pascal continued after a moment. "You should prepare yourself too. It's only deep in Achilleos that you'll be able to confront the regent's plans." A cool night breeze passed over his skin. Guillaume claimed not to know what the regent plans to do in Achilleos. Pascal looked at him with his steady brown eyes. "Every Vician knows what the regent plans to do in Achilleos." "What's that?" "Rule," said Pascal. It's the end of the chapter. We're a little bit past 4, so we're going to take our break here before we come back and read chapter 7. So, we are, hang on. I realize I probably just said that. We're on page 94 for chapter 7, by the way. We are 94 pages in, and there hasn't been a single scene that isn't a wallop to the chest in one way, shape, or form. How? I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm just gonna breathe and probably gonna get myself some more tea. And Merlin! I didn't have Merlin. I'm gonna go get Merlin. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Enjoy. Well, it's technically not the Gaywatch. It's the Gaywatch break room today, but enjoy the room that I am always in, spiritually, metaphorically, in all ways except physically. And I'll be back here in just a little bit. And welcome back. I see. Well, first of all, I found Merlin. We have Merlin. But I also found Arthur. Remember how Arthur was missing in action a little while ago? I found him just now. With the drink I have, Merlin was kind of better suited. But I did want to alternate Arthur and Merlin for this, for King's Rising. So I found him. He's fine. He's good. He was just literally sitting in the cupboard and I just didn't see him. But that's neither here nor there. No, he's fine. He's cool. You guys... the name for the axolotl, because that is a trend, naming the different things, the different cute things that I throw at you guys. First of all, Dee Dee for short, adorable. Second of all, bonus points because Dee Dee happens to be the name of a trans person who I know and love. So, like, super extra bonus points. Third, the diamond part, was that on purpose because of my name? Because I'm Brittany Diamond? Or because I rarely say the diamond part. But then again, that is on the Patreon. It is. Y'all are wild. Y'all are too cute. That's too adorable and wholesome. Daisy, because y'all were like, it looks like a flower. Diamond for me, and then it combines to a name of a trans person. Immaculate. Very well done. Perfection. You guys have done it again. Holy shit. Thank you for asking about the wife's back. Her back is getting better. It's a back thing, so it slowly gets better, but her back is on the mend. She had a little bit of time off and she's got light duty at work and stuff, so she's taking it easy. Her work supports her taking it easy. It's going good. Thank you for asking. She's doing much better. That was not what I'm supposed to be clicking. There I am. Alrighty. We are on page 94 for chapter 7. You gotta remember to breathe. We just all have to breathe, alright? The first military coalition of Ver and Achielos launched from Fortaine in the morning, after the execution of Macedon's men. There were very few problems, the public killings having been good for the soldiers' morale. They hadn't been good for Macedon's morale. Damon watched the general swing himself into the saddle, then tug hard on a rein. Macedon's men wore a line of red cloaks stretching across fully half the length of the column. The horns sounded. The banners went up. The heralds took up their position. The Achielan herald was to the right, the Vician herald to the left, their banners carefully matched to be the same height. The Vician herald was named Hendrik, and he had very strong arms, because banners were heavy. Damon and Laurent were to ride alongside one another. Neither one of them had the better horse. Neither one of them had the more expensive armor. Damon was taller, but nothing could be done about that, Hendrik had said with an impenetrable expression. Hendrik, Damon was learning, had something in common with Laurent, in that it was never a simple matter to tell when he was joking. He brought his horse alongside Laurent's at the head of the column. It was a symbol of their unity, the prince and the king riding side by side as friends. He kept his eyes on the road. At Marus, we'll stay in adjacent chambers, said Damon. It's protocol. Of course, said Laurent, his eyes also on the road. Laurent showed no sign of distress and sat upright in the saddle as though nothing at all had happened to his shoulder. He spoke charmingly to the generals and even made pleasant conversation in response to Nicandros when Nicandros spoke to him. I hope the injured boy was returned to you safely? Thank you, he returned with Pascal, said Laurent. For a salve, Damon opened his mouth to say, and didn't. Marus was a day-long ride, and they set a good pace. The air was loud with sound, a line of soldiers, outriders ahead, servants and slaves behind. When the column passed near, the birds took off. A herd of goats fled over the side of the hill. It was afternoon when they reached the small checkpoint manned by Nicandros' soldiers and overseen by an Achielan signal tower. They rode through. The landscape on the other side looked no different. Rich grass fields, green from a spring of generous rain, bruised at the edges from their passing. In the next moment the horns rang out, triumphant and lonely at the same time, the pure sound absorbed by the sky and the wide open landscape around them. Welcome home, Nicandros said. Achielos. He drew in a breath of Achielan air. In months of captivity, he had thought of this moment. He couldn't help glancing next to him at Laurent, his posture and expression easy. They rode through the first of the villages. This close to the border, larger farms had rudimentary outer walls of stone, and some were like improvised forts with lookouts or well-tried defense systems. The passing of the army wouldn't be a surprise, and Damon was prepared for the people of his country to react to it in various ways. He had forgotten that Delpha had become an Achaean province only 6 years ago, and that before that, for the span of their entire lives, these men and women had been citizens of Ver. The silent faces gathered, women and men, children, in doorways under awnings standing together as the army passed. Tense, afraid, they had come out of their homes to watch the first Vician banners flying here in 6 years. One of them had fashioned a crude starburst with sticks. A child held it up, like the image she saw. The starburst banner means something here on the border, Laurent had said. Laurent said nothing, riding straight back to the head of the column. He did not acknowledge his people with their Vician language, customs, and allegiances, making their small living on the border. He was riding with an army of Achaeans who wholly controlled this province. He kept his gaze ahead. So did Damon, feeling the everlasting pressure of their destination with every step. A scene break. He remembered exactly how it had looked, and that was why he didn't recognize it at first. The forest of broken spears was gone, and there was no gouged ruts in the earth, no men face down in the churned mud. Marus was now a tumble of grass and wildflowers in the blowy, sweet summer weather, shifting back and forth in the gentle air. Here and there an insect droned, a drowsy sound. A dragonfly dipped and darted. Their horses waded, fording long grass. They joined the wide road, sunlight dappling their path. As the column crossed the fields, Damon found himself searching for some mark of what had happened. There was nothing. No one remarked on it. No one said it was here. It got worse as they got closer, as though the only evidence of the battle was the feeling in his chest. And then the fort itself came into view. Marus had always been beautiful. It was a Vician fort in the grand style, with high-flung battlements and crenelles, its elegant arches presiding over green fields. It still looked like that, from a distance. It was an outline of Vician architecture, promising an interior of high open galleries, banded in carving, filigree gilt, and decorative tile. Damon remembered, suddenly, the day of the victory ceremonies, the cutting down of the tapestries, the slashing of the flags. Achaeans thronged near the gates, men and women straining for a glimpse of their returned king. Achaean soldiers filled the inner courtyard, and Achaean banners hung from every vantage, gold lions on red. Damon looked at the courtyard. The parapets were broken down and reshaped, the stonework hacked off. The stone itself carted off for use in new building, the splendid rooftops and towers leveled into an Achaean style. Damon had told himself he thought Vician ornamentation wasteful. In Arl, his eyes had begged for relief. He had wished daily for a stretch of plain wall. All he could see now was the empty floor with its tiles pulled up, the ruined ceiling, the bare, painfully stripped stone. Laurent swung down from his horse, thanking Nicandros for the welcome. He walked past the rows of Achaean soldiers in flawless formation. Indoors, the fort's household gathered, excited and proud, to meet and serve their king. Damon and Laurent were jointly presented to those household officials who would serve them during their time here. They moved from the first set of rooms to the second, rounding the corner and coming into the viewing hall. Lining the hall were 24 slaves. They were arrayed in 2 rows, prostrated, their foreheads to the floor. All were male, ranging in age from perhaps 19 to 25, with different looks and different coloring, their eyes and lips accentuated by paint. Beside them, the keeper of slaves stood waiting. Nicandros frowned. The king has already made his preference for no slaves known. These slaves are provided for use of our king's guest, the Prince of 'Ver. Colnus, the keeper of slaves, bowed respectfully. Laurent strolled forward. "I like that one," said Laurent. The slaves were dressed in the northern style, in light gauzy silks that threaded through the link on their collar and covered very little. Laurent was indicating to the third slave to the left, a dark bowed head. "An excellent choice," said Colness. "Isander, step forward." Isander was olive-skinned and lithe as a fawn, with dark hair and eyes, Achiellan coloring. He shared that with Nicandros, with Damon. He was younger than Damon, 19 or 20, male either in deference to Vician customs or to suit Laurent's assumed preferences. He looked like Nicandros's best, Damon thought. It was probably rare that he was given out to guests. No, he was new, unbedded. Nicandros would never offer royalty anything less than a slave's first night. Damon frowned. Isander was flushing deeply with the honor of being chosen. Shyness radiating from him, he rose, and then went to his knees a body length in front of the others, offering himself with all the sweet grace of a palace slave, too well trained to place himself ostentatiously in front of Laurent. "We will have him prepared and brought to you this evening for his first night," Colness said. "First night," said Laurent. "Slaves are trained in the arts of pleasure, but they do not lie with another until their first night," Colness said. "Here we use the same strict classical training that is used in the royal palace. Skills are learned through instruction and practiced with indirect methods. The slave remains wholly untouched, kept pure for the first use of the exalted." Laurent's eyes lifted to Damon's. "I never did learn how to command a bed slave," said Laurent. "Teach me." "They cannot speak Vician, Your Highness," Colness explained, in the Achiellan language, using the plain form of address as appropriate. "To command any act of service is to honor a slave. The more personal the service, the greater the honor." "Really? Come here," said Laurent. Isander rose for the second time, a faint tremor in his body as he came as close as he dared before dropping to the ground again, his cheeks bright red. He looked a little dazed by the attention. Laurent extended the tip of his boot. "Kiss it," he said. His eyes were on Damon. His boot was beautifully turned, his clothing immaculate even after the long ride. Isander kissed the toe tip, then the ankle. Damon thought, that's where skin would be if he was wearing a sandal. Then, in a moment of unspeakable daring, Isander leaned in and rubbed his cheek against the leather of the boot at Laurent's calf, a sign of exceptional intimacy and desire to please. "Good boy," said Laurent, reaching down to pet Isander's dark curls, while Isander's eyes closed and he flushed over. Colness preened, pleased that his selection was appreciated. Damon could see that the fort's household around them was also pleased, having gone to great lengths to make Laurent feel welcome. They had considered with intense thoughtfulness Vician culture and Vician practices. All the slaves were highly attractive, and all were male, so that the prince might use them in bed without offending Vician custom. It was pointless. There were 24 slaves here, while the number of times Laurent had had sex in his life could probably be counted on one hand. Laurent was just going to be dragging 24 young men back to his rooms to sit around doing nothing. They wouldn't even be able to unlace Vician clothing. "Can he also serve me in the baths?" said Laurent. "And at the feast for the bannermen this evening when they give their pledge, if that pleases you, Your Highness," said Colness. "It pleases me," said Laurent. I'm just breathing. We're just sitting here and we're just breathing. That was a scene break. Home was not supposed to have felt like this. His squires wrapped him in the traditional garment, cloth wound around his waist and over his shoulder, the sort of ceremonial Achelan garb that you could unreel from a person by taking hold of one end and pulling while they rotated. They brought sandals for his feet and the laurel for his head, performing the ritual motions in silence while he stood still for it. It was not appropriate that they speak or look at his person. Exalted. He could feel their discomfort, their need to debase themselves. This sort of proximity to royalty permitted only the extreme submissiveness of slaves. He had sent away the slaves. He had sent them away as he had sent them away in the camp, and after he had stood in the silence of his suite waiting for his squires. Laurent, he knew, was rooming in the adjoining suite, separated from him by a single wall. Damon was in the king's chambers, which any lord who built a fort installed, in the hope the king would stop there. But even the former lord of Marlus's optimism had not stretched to the idea that the heads of two royal families would visit simultaneously. To preserve their arrangements of scrupulous equality, Laurent was in the queen's bedchambers, beyond that wall. Isander was probably tending him, gamely doing his best with the laces. He would have to unhook the lacings on the back of the neck of Laurent's riding leathers before drawing them through their eyelets, or Laurent had taken Isander into the baths, to be undressed by him there. Isander would be flushed with pride at being chosen for the task. Attend me. Damon felt his hands curl into fists. He turned his mind to political matters. He and Laurent would now meet the smaller northern provincial leaders in the hall, where there would be wine and feasting, and Nicandrus's bannermen would come, one by one, to make their pledge, swelling the ranks of their army. When the last laurel leaf was arranged, the last piece of fabric wound into place. Damon proceeded with his squires into the hall. Men and women reclined on couches amid scattered low tables or on low, cushioned benches. Macedon leaned, selecting a slice of peeled orange. Pallas, the handsome officer champion, reclined with the easy posture that spoke to his aristocratic blood. Stratton had hitched his skirts up and drawn his legs onto the couch, crossing them at the ankles. Everyone whom rank or office entitled to be here was assembled, and with every northerner of standing gathered to give their pledge, the hall was packed full. The Vicians present were mostly vertical, standing awkwardly in small groups, one or two perched gingerly on the edge of a seat. And all through the hall there were slaves. Slaves in hipcloths carried delicacies on small platters. Slaves fanned reclined Achelan guests with woven palm leaves. A male slave filled a shallow wine cup for an Achelan nobleman. A slave held out a finger bowl of rose water, and an Achelan woman dipped her fingers in it without even glancing at the slave. He heard the plucked strings of a kithara and glimpsed the measured steps of a slave's dance, just for a moment, before he walked through the doors. When Damon entered, the hall fell silent. There was no trumpet flourish or herald's announcement, as there would have been in Ver. He just walked in, and everyone went to the floor. Guests rose from their couches, then dropped foreheads to the stone. Slaves went to their stomachs. In Achelos, kings did not elevate their status. It was up to those around him to lower themselves. Laurent didn't rise. He wasn't required to. He just watched from his reclining couch as the hall prostrated itself. He had cultivated an elegant sprawl, with his arm draped over his couch back and his leg drawn up, revealing the arc of an exquisitely clad thigh. His fingers dangled. Silk rucked around his knee. Isander was prostrated, an inch from Laurent's casually draped fingertips, his lithe body bare. He wore a brief garment like a Vascian man's cloth. His collar fit him like a second skin. Laurent sat relaxed, every line of his body arranged tastefully against the couch. Damon made himself stroll forward through the silence. Their twin couches were next to each other. "Brother," Laurent said, pleasantly. The eyes of everyone in the hall were on him. He felt their gazes, their underfed curiosity. He heard the rumors. It really is him, Damianos, alive in here. Accompanied by the brazen looks, looking at him, looking at the gold cuff on his wrist, looking at Laurent in his Vician clothes like an exotic ornament. So that is the Vician prince. And beneath that, the speculation that was never spoken aloud. Laurent was scrupulously correct in the face of it, his behavior immaculate. Even his use of the slave was an act of unimpeachable etiquette. In Achielos it pleased the host for a guest to make use of his hospitality, and it pleased the Achielan people for their royal families to take slaves, a sign of virility and power, and a cause of great pride. Damon sat, too aware of Laurent beside him. He could see the sweep of the hall from this vantage, a sea of bowed heads. He gestured, indicating that the hall should rise from their prostrations. He saw, Boreas? Possibly Boreas. He saw Boreas of Mesos, the first of the bannermen after Macedon, a man in his 40s with dark hair and a close-cut beard. He saw Aratos of Charon, who had come to Marus with 600 men. Euandros of Itis, here with a small cadre of archers, stood with his arms folded across his chest at the back of the hall. Bannerman of Delphi. By now you have seen the evidence that Castor killed the king, our father. You know of his alliance with the usurper, the regent of Ver. Even now the regent has troops stationed in Eos, ready to take Achielos. Tonight we call for your pledge to fight them alongside us and alongside our ally, Laurent of Ver. There was an uneasy pause. Macedon and Stratton had pledged to him in Ravenel, but that was before his alliance with Laurent. These men were being asked to accept Laurent and Ver at first sight, less than a generation out from the war. Boreas stepped forward. I want assurances that Ver does not hold undue influence over Achielos. Achielos, wow. Undue influence. Speak plainly. They say the Prince of Ver is your lover. Silence. No one would have dared speak that way in his father's court. It was a sign of the volatility of these warlords, their hatred of Ver, of his own position, newly precarious. Anger rose at the question. Who we take to our bed is not your concern. If our king takes Ver to his bed, it is our concern, said Boreas. Shall I tell them what really happened between us? They want to know, Laurent said. Laurent began to unlace the cuff of his sleeve, drawing the ties through the eyelets, then opening the fabric to expose the fine underside of his wrist, and then the unmistakable gold of the slave cuff. Damon felt the shocked buzz go around the hall, felt its prurient undercurrent. Hearing that the Prince of Ver wore an Achielan slave cuff was different to seeing it. The scandal was immense, the gold cuff a symbol of the ownership of the Achielan royal family. Laurent leaned his wrist elegantly on the curved arm of the couch, the open sleeve reminiscent of a delicate open shirt collar, its laces trailing. Do I have the question clear? Said Laurent, speaking in Achielan. You are asking if I lay with the man who killed my own brother. Laurent wore the slave cuff with utter disregard. He had no owner. The aristocratic arrogance of his posture said that. Laurent had always possessed an essential quality of the untouchable. He cultivated a faultless grace on the reclining couch, his chiseled profile and marble-chip eyes those of a statue. The idea that he would let anyone fuck him was impossible. Boreas said, a man would have to be ice cold to sleep with his brother's killer. Then you have your answer, said Laurent. There was a silence, in which Laurent's gaze held that of Boreas. Yes, exalted. Boreas bowed his head and unconsciously used the Achielan exalted rather than the Vician titles Highness or Majesty. Well, Boreas, said Damon. Boreas knelt 2 steps before the dais. I will pledge. I see that the Prince of Ver stands with you. It's right that we swear to you here, on the site of your greatest victory. He got through the pledges. He performed his thanks to the bannermen, and when the food came, signaling the end of the oaths and the commencement of the feast, he displayed his gratification. Slaves brought the food. Squires served Damon, since he had made his preferences clear. It was an awkward arrangement that displeased everyone in the hall. Isander served Laurent. Isander was utterly in love with his master. He strove continuously to do well, selecting each delicacy for Laurent to sample, bringing him only the best in small, shallow dishes, refreshing the water bowl for Laurent to clean his fingers. He did it all with perfect form, discreetly attentive, and never drawing attention to himself. His eyelashes drew attention to themselves. Damon made himself look elsewhere. 2 slaves were taking up position in the center of the hall, one with a kithara, the other standing beside him, an older slave, chosen for his skill in recitation. Laurent said, "Play the Fall of Inoctos," and a murmur of approval passed over the hall. Colness, the keeper of slaves, congratulated Laurent on his knowledge of Echiel epics. "It's one of your favorites, isn't it?" said Laurent, transferring his gaze to Damon. It was one of his favorites. He had called for it countless times on evenings like this in the marble halls of his home. He had always liked the depiction of Echielans cutting down their enemies, as Nisos rode out to kill Inoctos and take his walled city. He didn't want to hear it now. We have 4 lines of lyrics. Cut off from his brothers, Inoctos strikes too short at Nisos. Where 1,000 swords have failed, Nisos raises 1. We're breathing again. The stirring notes of the battle song drew a burst of great approval from the bannermen, and their appreciation of Laurent grew with every stanza. Damon picked up a wine cup, found it empty, signaled. The wine came. As he took up the cup, he saw Jord approaching the place where Guillaume sat with his wife. Lois? I believe so. With his wife, Lois, to Damon's left. It was Lois and not Guillaume that Jord was approaching. She gave him a cursory look. Yes? There was an awkward pause. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for your loss. Your son was a good fighter. Thank you, soldier. She gave him the token attention a lady might give to any servant, and turned back to her conversation with her husband. Before he realized it, Damon had lifted his hand and summoned Jord over. Approaching the dais, Jord made the 3 prostrations as ungracefully as a man wearing a new armor suit. You have good instincts, Damon heard himself say. It was the first time that he had spoken to Jord since the battle at Charcy. He felt how different this was to the nights they'd sat around a campfire swapping stories. He felt how different everything was. Jord gazed at him for a long moment, then indicated Laurent with his chin. I'm glad you 2 were friends, said Jord. The light was very bright. He drained his wine cup. I thought when he found out about you, he'd swear revenge, said Jord. He knew all along, said Damon. It's good that you could trust each other, said Jord. And then, I think before you came, he didn't really trust anyone. Damon said, he didn't. Laughter grew louder as it came in bursts across the hall. Isander was bringing Laurent a sprig of grapes in a small dish. Laurent said something approving and gestured for Isander to join him on the reclining couch. Isander glowed, shyly besotted. As Damon watched, Isander picked a single grape from the sprig and lifted it to Laurent's lips. Laurent leaned in. He twined a finger around a curl of Isander's hair and allowed himself to be fed, grape by grape, a prince with a new favorite. Across the hall, Damon saw Stratton tap the shoulder of the slave serving him, a signal that Stratton wished to discreetly retire and enjoy the slave's attentions in private. He lifted the wine blindly. The cup was empty. Stratton wasn't the only Achielan departing with a slave. Men and women throughout the hall were availing themselves. The wine and the slaves enacting the battle were breaking down inhibitions. Achielan voices grew loud, emboldened by wine. Laurent leaned in further to murmur something intimately into Isander's ear, and then, as the recitation reached its climax, the clash of swords like the hammering in his chest, Damon saw Laurent tap Isander's shoulder and rise. "I'd wager you never thought a prince could be jealous of a slave. At this moment I'd trade places with you in a heartbeat." Torvald's words. He said, "Excuse me." The entire court around him rose as he pushed up from his couch throne. Trying to follow Laurent out, he got tangled in ceremony, the hall a stifling press of bodies and noise, and as the blonde head disappeared towards the doorway, he was stopped by party after party blocking his path. He ought to have brought a slave of his own, then the crowd would have melted away, understanding. The king wished privacy. The corridor was empty when he strode out into it. His heart was pounding. He turned the first corner into a section of the passage, half expecting to catch Laurent's retreating figure. Instead, he saw a stark, empty arch with all its Vician lattice stripped away. Under the arch was Isander, standing with his fawn eyes, looking confused and abandoned. His confusion was such that for a moment he just stared at Damon with wide eyes before he seemed to understand what was happening, and folded to the floor, forehead to the stone. Damon said, "Where is he?" Isander was well trained, even if nothing was happening as he had expected tonight, and even if, rather mortifyingly, he was being asked to report this fact to his king. "His Highness of Vare has gone for a ride." "A ride where?" "At the stables a handler might know his destination. This slave can inquire." "A ride. At night. Alone. Leaving a feast in his honor." "No," said Damon. "I know where he's gone." That's a scene break. Just checking really quickly how much we have left of that. Okay. All right. At night, nothing looked the same. It was a landscape of memory, of old stone and ancient hanging rock, of fallen kingdoms. Damon left the castle and rode out to the field that he remembered, where 10,000 Achaelan men had faced the Vician army. He guided his horse carefully where the ground dipped and swelled, a listing stone slab, a fragment of stairs. Strewn across Marus were the ruins of something older than the battle, a silent witness of broken arches and crumbled, moss-covered walls. He remembered these stone blocks that were half part of the earth. He remembered the way that fronts had had to ford and split around them. They predated the battle, and they predated Marus, the remnants of a long-dead empire. They were a lodestar to the memory, a marker of the past on a field that might have erased everything. Closer. The approach was difficult because it was sharp with memory. Here was the place where their left flank had fallen. Here was the place where he had ordered men to attack the lines that would not fall, the starburst banner that did not falter. Here was the place where he had killed the last of the prince's guard and come face to face with Auguste. He dismounted from his horse, looping its reins over the cracked stone column of an overgrown pillar. The landscape was old, and the pieces of stone were old, and he remembered this place, remembered the torn soil and the desperation of the fight. Clearing a last jut of stone, he saw the curve of a shoulder in the moonlight, the white of a loose shirt, his outer garment stripped, all wrists and exposed throat. Laurent was sitting on a stone outcrop. His jacket was discarded uncharacteristically. He was sitting on it. A stone slid under his heel. Laurent turned. For a moment, Laurent looked at him wide-eyed, young. And then the look in his eyes changed, as though the universe had fulfilled an ineluctable promise. "Oh," he said. "Perfect." Sorry, that sentence was really heartbreaking. 1 second. Young. Like he's not young? Damon said, "I thought you might want. A friend, said Damon. He used Jord's word. His chest felt tight. If you'd prefer me to leave, I will. Why cavil? Said Laurent. Let's fuck. He said it with his shirt unlaced, the wind teasing the opening there. They faced each other. That isn't what I meant. It might not be what you meant, but it's what you want, Laurent said. You want to fuck me. Anyone else would have been drunk. Laurent was dangerously sober. Damon remembered the feel of a palm against his chest, pushing him back on the bed. You've been thinking about it since Ravenel, since Nessun. He knew this mood. He should have expected it. He made himself say the words, I came because I thought you might want to talk. Not particularly. He said, about your brother. I never fucked my brother, said Laurent, with a strange edge to the words. That is incest. They were standing in the place where his brother had died. With a disorienting sensation, Damon realized they weren't going to talk about that. They were going to talk about this. You're right, said Damon. I've been thinking about it since Ravenel. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Why? Said Laurent. Was I that good? No. You fucked like a virgin, said Damon, half the time. The rest of the time, like I knew what to do. Like you knew what you were used to. He saw the words impact. Laurent swayed like he'd been dealt a blow. Laurent said, I'm not certain I can take your particular brand of honesty just at this moment. Damon said, I don't prefer sophistication in bed, if you were wondering. That's right, said Laurent. You like it simple. All the breath left his throat. He stood, stripped, unready for it. Will you use even that against me? He wanted to say, and didn't. Laurent's breathing was shallow too, holding his ground. He died well, Damon made himself say. He fought better than any man I've known. It was a fair fight, and he felt no pain. The end was quick. Like getting a pig. Damon felt like he was reeling. He barely heard the rumbling of sound. Laurent jerked around to look into the dark, where the sound was growing louder. Hoofbeats, thundering closer. You sent your men out to look for me too, said Laurent, his mouth twisting. No, said Damon, and pushed Laurent hard out of sight, into the shelter of one of the huge crumbling blocks of stone. In the next second, the troop was on them, at least 200 men, so that the air was thick with the passage of horses. Damon pressed Laurent firmly into the rock and held him in place with his body. The riders didn't slow, even on this uncertain ground in the dark, and any man in their path would be trampled, tumbled, kicked from hoof to hoof. Discovery was a real threat, the rock cool under his palms, the dark shuddering with the pounding of hooves and heavy, lethal horseflesh. He could feel Laurent against him, the barely contained tension, adrenaline mixed with his dislike of the proximity, the urge in him to prize himself out and away, stifled by necessity. He had a sudden thought for Laurent's jacket lying exposed on the outcrop, and for their horses tied up a little way off. If they were discovered, it might mean capture or worse. They couldn't know who these men were. His fingers bit into the stone, feeling the moss and the crumbled pieces beneath. Horses plunged all around them like the rushing of a stream. And then they were gone, passing them as quickly as they had arrived, disappearing across the fields towards a destination in the west. The hoofbeats receded. Damon didn't move, their chests pressed to each other, Laurent's shallow breath against his shoulder. He felt himself shoved back as Laurent pushed himself out to stand with his back to him, breathing hard. Damon stood with his hand against the stone and looked after him across the landscape of strange shapes. Laurent didn't turn back to him, just stood holding himself still. Damon could see him once again as a pale outline in a thin shirt. I know you're not cold, said Damon. You weren't cold when you ordered me tied to the post. You weren't cold when you pushed me down on your bed. We need to leave. Laurent spoke without looking at him. We don't know who those riders were or how they got past our scouts. Laurent. A fair fight, said Laurent, turning back to him. No fight's ever fair. Someone's always stronger. That may have rearranged my understanding of the universe. And then the bells from the fort began to ring. The sound of a warning, their sentries belatedly reacting to the presence of unknown riders. Laurent reached down to snag up his jacket, shrugging into it, laces hanging loose. Damon brought over their horses. Unhooking his reins from the stone column, Laurent swung wordlessly into his saddle and put his heels into his horse, both of them riding hard back to Marus. That came perfectly at the bottom of a page, so I didn't realize that was the end of the chapter, but that's the end of a chapter. And where we're stopping. For a week and a half. As I text the wife to let her know that she can come crash the stream, because if you're just joining us, today's my birthday. And the wife requested that she crash the stream at the end of today in order to, I think, bring me things that you guys may have sent me for my birthday. So as I text her that she can come in, I will say there are no streams next week because that is my time off next week. I have a week off next week, so we will be coming back with more King's Rising the week after. I forget exactly what day that is in June, but you guys have schedules. You can, look at a calendar. So we're here the week after, which makes where we stopped today particularly cruel. But here we are. I don't think there's a nice place to stop for a week break, actually, in King's Rising. So that's not how you spell that. All right. That's not how you spell that either. Oh, she may have heard me.
Happy birthday.
Hello.
Happy birthday.
Hi. Hello. Hi.
Can
Here.
people see me?
So you can get at least initially oriented. There's you. So come in a little bit more over here.
Slide over.
I literally physically can't. You're gonna have to lean. I am just realizing right now that I am not prepared for a second person, even remotely. So
that's okay. I technically don't need to be on camera.
That tracks. That's true.
This is not about me.
I mean, the people like you, though, so...
Of course they do.
Hello, ma'am.
What?
Ma'am.
What?
Ma'am.
What?
Ma'am.
What?
Ma'am. Ma'am.
Gotta hit him with the
What do you
silver.
have, ma'am?
Oh. I have from...
Oh, Jesus. Not again.
I hit the thing. Hi, guys. Oh, and for those of you who don't know me...
This is the wife.
Yes, my name is Tamaris.
This is the wife.
Hi.
In the birthday stream earlier, which you were in on.
Yes, I was in the chat.
Somebody asked about...
I was also at work. But
Oh,
I was
yeah,
in the chat.
yeah. Somebody asked about our love story. How did we get together?
I know.
And I had to give them the abridged version. Do you know where that video is? Because there's a video of us talking about it. What?
Yes, someone in the chat already said the video is on YouTube.
Oh, it is.
It's on
okay.
the channel. It's on
so
the
it
channel.
does indeed exist.
It's like 2 hours
on YouTube.
It's
it is.
We like to talk.
You need the long version.
Hey,
we also may like
hey.
to talk. Whatever.
She's trying to.
Are you gonna hand me things or what?
Yes.
It's my. Fucking excuse me. Hang on.
Well, show it to the people.
Hang on. Hang.
This is the only way I can.
Hang
be
on.
camera.
Hang on. Speaking of art. Hang on. Wait, that's not even the right camera that I should be looking in. This is the one that gets the immediate. Excuse me.
Isn't that gorgeous?
Excuse me. Sorry, that is some Justice in the Dark bullshit, and that is like...
Justice in the Dark? I didn't even know. I was just like, pretty men.
Hello? Do you really need to know the details? No, yeah, this is some Justice in the Dark, gorgeous fan art bullshit that I will be putting... Let me see.
Okay.
That I'll be putting probably like in the back of my closet, since a lot of that is bare.
That sounds bad.
Well, yeah.
If they don't know that that's where she likes to keep her art.
Yeah, I have other art back there. So this is just because it is mostly bare, because most of my stuff doesn't need to be hung up. Anyway, this is stunning.
And then it's birthday wishes on
And
the
now
back.
you guys are just gonna make me cry with your affection.
Oh, you have to leave the picture up there so I know if I'm in camera.
Gee, so what? Oh, no, but I can't.
It's okay,
but
you don't have to.
Okay, all right. Because being able to see myself is intensely distracting. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh, there's several different languages
Yes.
in which happy birthday is wished. My particular favorite might be Happy Womb Emigration Day. Holy shit. There's German, Finnish. Why didn't I just start at the top? Russian, Romanian, French, Hawaiian, literally pig Latin, which
Hilarious.
Spanish,
like that was
Italian, German and Finnish, like I said, Polish, and then Lower German. We love the nuance. Holy shit. All right. And then the actual in English message, the first one, there's a couple here, as per usual. It's really the usual suspects around here. You guys really, you just want to see me cry. It's fine.
They do. They love to surprise you. It's very sweet.
It is. It is. We can't talk about it. All right. It says, Happy birthday, Brittany. A wish for you on your birthday. Whatever you ask, may you receive. Whatever you seek, may you find. Whatever you wish, may it be fulfilled on your birthday and always.
That's sweet.
I have never heard that before. You're really... okay. May you be gifted with life's biggest joys and never-ending bliss. After all, you yourself are a gift. Don't. Why do you people... Hope your day today is just like you. Totally freaking awesome. It's funny. Oh, the X throws me off. It's either Omizomi or Omishomi, and I would not be able to tell you which.
I don't know either.
Thank you. I actually do not immediately know that handle. So you've either changed and I no longer know it, or you're new to the secret cult that does this to me. It used to be once a year and now it might be twice. The next one, which is from Tuxedo Cat, who we know and love, says,
regular.
Hey, Brittany, I wish you a happy birthday. May you continue to be your wonderfully queer self, just like you have been. And you better be taking damn good care of yourself, or else. We love a wholesome threat. Thank you so much.
Wholesome threat. That's so funny.
The next one from L&D, another, we know and love. Happy birthday, Brittany. Thank you for all you do and all the fun, awesome, unhinged, nerdy, and above all, gay times we all shared together. Thank you, Ellen. This one from Gomo. Once again, these are all the usual suspects at this point. Mm-hmm. Says, Happy birthday, Brittany, and may your next year bring happiness, health, and glorious stories to share. Speaking of Justice in the Dark, that translation comes out at the end of this year, so that's a given. That's guaranteed. The wish has been granted. The next one from OM says simply, Happy birthday. Let's be gay 1 year more.
Oh, yes.
Agreed.
Hard
Agreed.
agreed.
And then the last one from the ever beautiful Lila, who we know, love, and appreciate, says, on this anniversary of your birth, I wish you all the joy you have brought to us all. May it continue to multiply and increase. That's from Chick Rider. So sorry, Lila has just a one simple. That's from Chick Rider. I can't read whenever I do these things. Like, what? Do I read for a living? No. That's from Chick Rider. The last one from Lila literally says, live free and have a long life.
Which is honestly great. I'm down for all of these wishes.
Yeah. Chick Rider, yet another person we all know and love. And then there's more Justice in the Dark bullshit going on back here.
Yeah, there's
which
more art.
I keep clicking on the wrong thing. Which I, again, still have to share because, I mean, it's why beautiful. Wouldn't you? You know what I'm saying? They really did something with the casting on that show.
So
they really.
We'll put that to the side.
You guys, or you'll just drop it. Why are you like me in that way?
I'm clumsy. Leave me alone.
Thank you very much.
Now for the gifts.
I am overwhelmed as per usual.
Okay, first gift.
Yes. What? Ooh, Kaleidoscope of Death. Didn't somebody tell me about this? I feel like somebody told me about this. Kaleidoscope of Death. I feel like somebody even told me about this super recently. Oh shit, but hang on. All right, I'm going to do the thing.
Wait, do you want me to open it?
Yeah, would you?
Yes.
So that I can look at the back and see what that is? And see what it says on the back? Mm-hmm. What's in here?
It's another gift. You're going to multi-gift.
What's it? Oh, no!
Jesus.
Oh my god, no! That's just stop. Oh my fucking god. I only talked about this in like every goddamn episode of Fangs of Fortune. One of the characters has this this like pins her hair.
Yeah, it's a hairpin.
And I loved it so much because it was also a brush and it was just really beautiful. And I talked about it like every single time it was there, which it was there quite a lot because, you know, it kept her hair up. And now it's here. Jesus.
It's really pretty.
Oh my God. No, it's so
love
pretty.
it.
I
Look
get
at
to,
that.
I'll find some place to display that on the bookshelf.
The bookshelf of gifts.
The bookshelf of gifts. Yeah. I should really,
Let's
I'll
put it-
find.
And there's
Yeah,
like-
this will. I'm alright.
I think these are like little hair ties.
I'm alright. Oh yeah, and then there are little hair ties in here as
They're
well.
just cute little.
Oh
like,
my God, and they're super cute. I don't know if it'll
hearts.
zoom in on that
I
right
don't-
around here,
I
but
don't know.
oh my God, no, they're like just really cute, like
little
bears
flowers
holding
and
things.
strawberries.
No, that's adorable.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe we get that. All right, all
Put
right.
that in here.
Okay. Oh right,
So
no,
it doesn't
that
get
should probably just go back into
damaged.
the
Yeah.
box.
Well, until we display it somewhere.
Tell me,
There's,
tell me
like,
what the back of
bookshelves.
it says.
It doesn't say anything.
Oh, cool.
There's like bookmarks.
No, we love
And
we
pretty
love the
stuff.
packaging. Oh, a bookmark. Yes, please.
Always.
So, will the back tell me? The back won't tell me how unhelpful. Neither of the interior flaps tell me either. Damn.
What are you trying to get it to tell you?
I'm trying to get it to tell me a synopsis, what the hell it can be expected. Oh, this is very much.
I feel like someone's gonna tell. Well, Lila says the Spire Realm is based on that book.
Oh, this is the Spire Realm book? Maybe that's why I've heard of it before. Oh! Well, shut up! I get to watch that soon because it won the poll. Well, I'll be damned. Holy shit, thank you so much. I mean, don't think I don't see what you're doing.
Well,
We see what you're doing.
no one said they weren't a smart cult.
You know, like,
Jesus. I gotta
we
try.
know why this book has suddenly appeared after it has won the poll. We are aware.
I have to like delicately get into this one because I do not. Want
I have no idea who has sent me any of this stuff aside from, you know, the usual suspects. So
It's the cult. The
you
cult
all
strikes
know I love
again.
it. Oh, one. Oh, one? Is there more than one volume? How long is this? How many volumes? I mean, I'm just asking to know, not to plan or anything. Oh, that's a lot of bubble wrap.
Yes. Don't.
What is? Oh, I can't look over there.
No, I'm trying to get it out
Fine.
for you without damaging anything.
Fine. Sure.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Hold on. It's almost ready.
5 volumes. 5 volumes. Nice. All right. How many pages for science for no reason whatsoever? Page number? Oh, okay. Oh, good. Like a standard 350 pages. Okay. That's a bit long to come in between volumes of... Maybe this will be what we read after, like we finish something like that. You're just watching me schedule on the fly, so it's all the riveting, you know, entertainment you come to expect on this channel. Can I look at it now?
Yes, but you know, yes. Do you want? Can I show the thing first?
Sure.
So this
I have
is-
literally no idea. I haven't looked at it yet. Ichi. So it's a show.
Okay.
Fangs of Fortune?
It opens.
What
like
the
this.
hell?
This has to open. So.
Yeah. So that
me just-
that gets removed very clearly. Fangs of Fortune.
Ooh.
Fangs of Fortune. Holy shit.
Yes. There you go. That's the moneymaker.
Oh my god. Is this like, it's given me the Untamed book vibes where it's like the behind the scenes coffee table book kind of situation?
That's what it seems like.
Take that, well, first of all, let me show it to you right here. Even though it's still in the
take the
wrapping, it's
plastic off.
unspeakably gorgeous as it should be because it's
Here's
Fangs
the
of Fortune.
other stuff.
Let me look through this stuff first while you get the
Yeah.
the wrapping off of that.
Okay.
Oh my god. There's like
So many gifts.
there's
in
so many things in here. Hang on.
there. And these are
on.
like maybe posters or something because they look like.
I was about to say they look like it. They look like something that's going in my I mean, you had to make sure that it was this one. You all know me. I've seen this shot. I've wanted this on my wall in some capacity or another.
man.
So there's that. I don't know if this is glaring off of the...
Okay, this is...
They really went to another place with the promo posters of this. And I also don't know, why am I opening that near the near the microphone? You guys have now been, so whenever I get gifts from you guys, they typically come from patrons, so I put the videos on Patreon, and they are always chaos. They are always just absolutely unhinged madness. And so you're seeing a gift opening video happening in real time. Yeah.
We can't be organized with gifts.
Oh my god. The found family has arrived.
Shit.
Excuse me. Look at this.
Oh no.
It's all of them. And they get to set up because they accordion. So I get to set them up somewhere.
Hold on. You're about to lose your mind over this.
Oh no. Hang on. Oh, that's beautiful. It folds back together. Oh my god. We love accordions. Yes?
This is every character.
Oh, they got all of them.
It's every character. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, no. Yeah, these were literally the promo posters for the series. Oh. They were like... Yeah. This show was like, we're not going to have any chill whatsoever for any of our... So I just showed you,
Well, here, you look at it, hand it to me.
But hang on. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
We're going to get
and there's Wen Xiao. Yeah. Oh, the multitude of swords worked for her. Oh my god, these are even more gorgeous close up. What the hell? Oh no. The best boy.
Oh, he's cute.
Oh my god, my favorite. Oh wow, they even have my favorite.
Oh.
And then the guy who brought, the Immaculate X vibes to the show. Because if you don't have Immaculate X vibes, do you have a homoerotic T-drama? I don't think you do. I think that's a requirement for the genre. You know what I'm saying?
Do you want to look at the book now? Or
I do! Let me see the book. Give it to me.
Oh, there's
my
still
god.
more little things, too.
It's stunning. What is it? Oh. Ooh, it is. It's like a visual coffee table book. It is all in Chinese. Can't read a word of it. But it's stunning. Oh, the costumes. There's a whole section on the costumes. Oh my god. No, this is beautiful. I'm going to have to put it next to the Untamed book somehow. I think there are enough books along that bookshelf to do it. Because right now the Untamed one is sitting up on top. I think it also has room for this. So they're going to go next to each other. You guys are you're trying to make my bookshelf as distracting as possible is what you're trying to do to me.
Just put that down here.
Oh my god, no, that's beautiful.
This clearly, things go in here, so maybe, some of these things.
Oh yeah, I'm sure these go in there. Oh my god, there's, more over here?
This is, some kind of...
Holy shit.
Thing with, places to put
Yeah.
things. But yeah, I was gonna get these out. Oh, probably.
Oh my god,
this is the right size.
It's these, oh Jesus, these.
Ooh.
Oh, those, yeah, there's more, character shots to go in another display thing.
And these are like thick
y'all were really
cardstock. These are gorgeous. Look at
they were, yeah.
These are amazing.
Oh my god, they were seriously Fangs of Fortune is the most visual show to ever exist.
There's so many of them.
So you just got me all of the visual things to ever exist.
What are these, postcards or something?
I actually have no idea. I haven't opened those yet. I was just
stickers.
about
Did
to.
you show the cute stickers?
Oh my god, yes I did.
Okay, yeah, the stickers are
This
adorable.
is just an overabundance of hotness,
so
let's be real.
These
Fangs
are
of Fortune.
Postcards.
Yeah.
That are really, really pretty.
Oh yeah, screenshot. Wait a second. Oh, and they have they've engraved signatures from the cast into them.
That's really cool.
That's really pretty. They've engraved it in gold. Where's my man? Hang on. hang on. I mean, everyone is my man. Oh, they chose this shot for him. I don't know if you can see that because it's super dark.
It is kind of dark.
But they've got, his signature is in gold over there. Oh, stop. Where's my other man? Because, oh my god, it's a beautiful shot of him too. Although, you could have a bad one. You know what I mean?
Pretty.
And the cast is full of nothing but, my husbands and wives. But, I had to get the two biggest subject. Oh my god!
So many more.
There's so many things.
They're so cute. There's a whole nother pack.
There's so many things.
They're so beautiful.
There's so many things. I even may have dropped something down there. No, you got it?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. There's too many pretty
Oh
things.
my god. Just the cup runneth over with Fangs of Fortune gloriousness.
Oh, these
Oh
are
my
so cute,
God.
too. Look at these.
What?
These are all so cute.
They're so cute.
They're like
No.
adorable. There's so many of them.
No.
I'm assuming all the different characters.
Yeah.
They're really cute.
Oh,
isn't
stop.
that's your favorite? The one with the light.
Yeah. That would be my man.
The
Yes.
light hair. He's cutie.
Oh.
There, yeah. Put all the stickers together.
Oh my God. Yeah, we got to keep those together.
Well, I'm keeping everything in the box because the box is nice for now.
Good.
Until you figure out how to display
Lord, it's like a Fangs of Fortune bomb just went off around here.
Was Fangs of Fortune one of the ones that I should watch, or that I was like, maybe not? Because listen, this is not. Hold on, I need a disclaimer because this is not to throw shade on any show whatsoever. I am an incredibly, ridiculously picky person when it comes to how I watch things and what I watch, and also I rewatch things more than I watch new things because my brain doesn't have enough space for new things. It needs old familiar things, right? And so she has to have a list of all the many things that she watches. There are some that like is worth me putting my brain power into something new, and then there are some that like my particular tastes are not suited to. No shade on the show though. Just my disclaimer.
We love a disclaimer.
Yes, well, you got to.
Fangs of Fortune was one of the ones that I put on the list of things that you should actually watch. Yes.
So it is one of the ones that I'm going to enjoy.
It is. It is one of the ones that you should actually watch.
Along with like, what's the devil one?
Devil Judge.
What's
Devil Judge Beyond Evil.
Look at these.
There's another one that I really need to. Oh, these are the ones that they come out with.
They come out.
My God.
And they're so pretty. They're like glittery on. I don't know. You can't see that probably, but they're like glittery.
I mean.
Oh, what? So they're gonna like stand up. Oh, it's gonna be like.
Yeah.
Can I do one?
Yeah, sure. I'm not gonna do one because God knows.
No.
I will just mangle it. Oh my God, that's beautiful.
You just bend it at the bottom.
That's stunning.
You can just bend it at the bottom.
Yeah.
And then this.
The simpler the instructions, the higher the chance that I'd fuck it up. Let's be real.
But then this helps like stand it up.
I've mangled too many cereal boxes in my time.
It's really pretty. That is true. These are so pretty.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Jesus.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. It is. A visual Fangs of Fortune bomb just went off in this room, and it is stunning.
It stands up.
Oh my God, it does. I'm just going to be...
I'll just like put it on my hand so you can see.
It stands up like that?
Yeah.
Stop it.
Super cool.
Stop.
Super cool.
Oh my God.
These are awesome. You guys outdid yourselves for real.
All of this and bribery.
They bribed you with...
And reading stream bribery.
That's funny.
I can't believe you guys. I can't believe this. How dare you? First of all, you
guys are awesome.
What? Oh my God, no, there's a shot of like the demon her, which is, I feel like it's so funny how they really hyped this, and she's on screen for what? Like, this version of her is on screen for what? For like 5 minutes? I don't care. I wanted this anyway. Because I'm really queer. It's like a whole thing. This is just
she married a woman.
now. Yeah, I don't know if they were aware of that.
I thought you were queer married to a woman. I
just talked about tattoo in the birthday stream. I don't know if they know that I'm queer or not.
I saw. It was great. It was hilarious. And I was like, your sexual realization of your sexual orientation is a lot better than mine.
Yeah, yours was a little more complicated.
A little.
To put it mildly.
We're not going to talk about it.
We're not going to talk about that. But yours was a little more
hers was so nice to her.
Mine at least was fairly quick and relatively nice.
Mine was not nice to me. But that's okay. I ended up here, so it's all good.
And y'all, you guys just started this tradition of your own free volition through like no prompting or anything, and now it's just become a thing to have like Christmas and New Year's, and then cat cameo, and then
He was young.
My birthday now, apparently, where I just get bombarded with apparently the most recent gay thing that I've watched, essentially.
That makes sense.
It just seems to make you guys happy to thoroughly overwhelm me at every major holiday. And
that's accurate.
You guys have done it again. Because this is ridiculous. And just so lovely. And a hell of a way to celebrate the birthday. I have had so much fun on the streams today. I cannot tell you. It has really been a banger fucking birthday. And I had kind of a hard week last week. So it's really, really, really nice of y'all. You guys are so nice. And I really appreciate that. So, I'm going to go try to sort through the visual explosion that is this Fangs of Fortune bomb and see if it'll go nicely right on top of the books next to the Untamed book. And I won't see you guys next week because that's my time off. But we're going to come back with a vengeance the week after to continue reading King's Rising and then get back to Urha and starting Spire Realm after Justice in the Dark finishes. There is always so much gay stuff. And it's delightful. And I really love being able to wade through it all with you guys. So thank you so much for this. I will see you in a week or so. And I just take care of yourselves and happy Pride. And I will see you guys very soon.
Bye, guys.
Y'all are ridiculous.